we want to look at the free agent frenzy that is going on right now, because there are some big free agents on the market, literally big. They are surrounding us here in the Gettable studio. So let's get to them. And Josh, I want to start with Brandon Starcevic. He is the restricted free agent at the Brisbane Lions. He's been assessing his options after returning to Brisbane's side in recent weeks, having dealt with that concussion issue earlier in the season. Now, the Lions would like to retain him. They've tabled a deal for him to stay, but he has strong interest from clubs around the country. So, notably in Victoria, Essendon has strong interest in him, as does North Melbourne, another club that has circled Brandon Starcevic. They've had interest in Dan Houston, Braden Maynard and Wayne Miller across the last 12 months. So clearly the Kangas are keen to invest in that role. They are another club circling Brandon Starcevic as things stand. West Coast also has some interest in Starcevic. Of course, he's from Perth, but whether or not he has that pull to go home is another question. The interesting one with Starcevic, which Cal Toomey has reported on Gettable before, is that lure of potentially having some midfield time in the past. We've seen him play across half-back. That's clearly the role that North Melbourne, as we said, have identified for him if they were to pursue him more strongly and go after him, and if he was to choose to go to Arden Street. But whether or not that becomes a factor in his decision is going to be huge as well.
It's just good to see him back out there as a starting point, given what he's been through. How about this guy behind me? Because we have spoken about him all year. I reckon you guys started speaking about him in March on Gettable, and we're still talking about him now. St Kilda's pursuit of him has been a massive talking point in 2025. Where does that currently sit?
Well, there have been absolutely no indications from Tom De Koning that he's going to stay at Carlton just yet. It doesn't mean that he won't backflip on that, but at the moment the Blues are preparing for a life without Tom De Koning. As you mentioned, he's got that offer of around $1.7 to $1.8 million to go to St Kilda. As things stand, that would net the Blues pick 7 as free agency compensation, given they're 6th from the bottom on the AFL ladder at the moment. But Carlton's been scouring the ruck market, which just goes to show exactly how much they are preparing for that life now without Tom De Koning. Mark Pitnate still on their books. Hudson O'Keefe's played some footy this year. They've liked what they've seen from him, but Ned Reeves is an option for them. Darcy Cameron, I think it's a long shot with Darcy Cameron at the moment, but Ned Reeves certainly one they're looking at. So the Blues now preparing for a life without Tom De Koning.
Speaking of Carlton free agents, let's move to Jack Silvagni, because we spoke about him last week, but since we last sat down for Gettable, the Western Bulldogs have emerged as a suitor for him as well. Are Carlton losing any faith in retaining him? Clearly Collingwood have come for him. Craig McRae's spoken about that publicly. Where does it sit?
Yeah, I think he's another one that looks like he's on his way out of Carlton as well. So the Blues have that 4-year deal on the table for him. They've had that on the table for the best part of 2 months. He's yet to sign it. Collingwood has also tabled a 4-year deal. As you mentioned, the Dogs do have some interest. My understanding is the Dogs are some way back as things stand at the moment. Collingwood have got the job on a lot of rival clubs in terms of Jack Silvagni's signature. We mentioned North Melbourne looking at Brandon Starcevic. Clearly they're looking to bolster their defensive stocks. Do they ask the question of Jack Silvagni in the coming weeks as well? That's one that I'm going to look out for. But yeah, some queries about Carlton's defensive stocks.
A lot of noise around Jack Silvagni. St Kilda's a club that's been linked to him by other clubs, can categorically rule them out at this stage. And the Western Bulldogs, they'll get an opportunity to pitch to him in the coming week or two. So a big name to watch. Now, Brody Mees one of them.
Just on Jack Silvagni as well. So Carlton obviously were preparing for life without him as well with Harry O'Farrell, who did his ACL on the weekend. He'll now miss the majority of next year as well. Harry Dean will arrive. So he's a defensive option that can help support Jacob Wiedering in 2026. The Blues will also go around again with Nick Haynes. I think Nick Haynes went to Carlton as a free agent end of last year, with many thinking that it would be his last season in the AFL. Hasn't missed a game yet so far this year. They're deep in discussions on an extension for Nick Haynes for him to play on into 2026 as well.
Of all these names, Rolls, I find Brody Mees one of the more fascinating, because this is a guy that didn't play league footy until the age of 25. He's 32 now. He's played 150 plus games. Clubs are circling him. Collingwood has offered him a 1-year deal. Where does this currently sit?
Yeah, I don't see him signing that 1-year deal on the table from Collingwood. I think they'll need to up that to 2 if they are to retain Brody Mees. But he's an interesting one from this free agency market, because, as you said, he's probably not the biggest name, but he's one that clubs are certainly looking at. 32 years old. He'll be 33 by the time next season starts, which I think goes into Collingwood's thinking of being a bit wary of giving him a 2-year deal. But clubs have certainly indicated they'd be willing to look at him with multi-year deals at the end of the season. He feels like he can play another 2 or 3 years. And this is a sort of head or heart decision, in the sense that your head says he's going to be 33 by the end of next season. Do we give him a 2-year deal? But your heart says, do we reward a premiership player who's done such great work for us as a bargain basement pickup, 33 goals from 17 games this year? And other forwards, I think, play better when Brody Mees in Collingwood's attack.
definitely wants to stay at the Pies if a deal can be done. It feels like there's been a little bit of movement this week from going from a 1 year to a 2 year offer. So one to have a watch across the coming weeks. How about Sam Draper? We spoke about him last week. You reported about Adelaide's retaining interest in him, despite the fact they went and re-signed Riley O'Brien for 3 more years. Where does this currently sit? Because he's got a massive decision to make.
Yeah, this is still very much a 3-horse race for Sam Draper. As we revealed last week, Adelaide's still on this hunt to sign the ruck free agent. That's even after signing Riley O'Brien to that 3-year extension. Brisbane had thought to be the favourites, but they're clearly not the only ones now. Essendon also still in the mix to retain him. They've got an offer on the table for him, but the Bombers have been weighing up the compensation pick that could return for Sam Draper as well, and the value of that. They've currently got picks 4 and 7 as things stand as a result of some trades that happened last year with Melbourne, some pick swaps there. Could they add another potential first-round pick if the Bombers do get band 1 for compensation for Draper? Even if it's band 2, get 4 and 7, then get an end of first-round pick, a start of second-round pick. That looks pretty enticing at the moment for a club that's clearly in a rebuild phase. So Sam Draper with some decisions to make, clearly.
Going to be the one that triggers a domino in the ruck merry-go-round, not just across the competition, but also at Essendon when you consider the out-of-contract ruckman at that club. James Worpel, unlike many of the names we've discussed already, is so durable, so reliable, the best and fairest winner, a proven winner at Hawthorn, but clearly has some options and is going to consider where he plays next year.
He certainly does. So Hawthorn's put forward different contract offers to Worpel, short and long-term deals, as we reported on Gettable in the past. Both have their benefits, Josh. So a 2-year deal would take him through to Tasmania, giving him that enticement of potentially leveraging his value in 2 years' time. But a 4-year deal has the extra security there. So that's going to be an interesting watch for James Worpel. I think if he was to stay at Hawthorn, though, that 2-year option is just completely off the table. I think he'd sign a 4-year deal for the extra security. I don't think that's even an option for him now anymore. Geelong has come to the party as well. We know, you mentioned last week that it was either Geelong or Hawthorn for him. They've got a 4-year deal on the table for Worpel as a free agent as well. Other clubs, including Melbourne and St Kilda, have been mentioned in the race for James Worpel this year. I'm told there's nothing in that. It's seen as a 2-horse race from rival clubs, Hawthorn or Geelong now. So that's going to be an interesting watch for him. We've got his manager, John Meeson, on in just a little bit, so we'll ask him all the latest on James Worpel. Those
clubs are aware that it is a 2-horse race, and there had been a thought that, does he sign a 2-year deal through to Tasmania 2027, but you're saying a 4-year deal?
Yeah, I think if he stays at Hawthorn, it'll be on the 4-year deal. It won't be that 2-year option that was also presented earlier this year.
One more to get through, and that is Oscar Allen. This guy was ruled out for the rest of the year back in June. There's been so much talk around him this year. Has anything changed? Do you still expect him to find his way to Brisbane?
I think so. He's still weighing it up. He hasn't completely ruled out the possibility of potentially staying at West Coast, where he is the co-captain at the moment. But I think everything's looking towards him joining the Lions at season's end. I think it's looked to be heading that way for quite some time. We put it on the radar when there was a lot of talk around him meeting with Sam Mitchell that talk might just go away. He might just put talks completely off the table, completely with all other clubs. That's what's happened, and we haven't heard much from Oscar Allen. The injury's actually helped him in that sense. It's helped take him out of the spotlight a little bit, but I think he's on his way to Brisbane at the end of the year. Just some other ones which haven't been garnering as much interest on the free agency market, but the clubs are looking at. Braden Fiorini at Gold Coast, he's been in fantastic form since coming back into the Suns side under Damien Hardwick. He's been offered a deal by Gold Coast. A few other clubs have sniffed around, but I can't see him leaving the Suns now. As we mentioned last week, Jamie Elliott has the deal on the table from Collingwood, but is yet to sign. Jacob Ware has interest from Port Adelaide and the Western Bulldogs. He's also got a 1-year offer on the table from the Giants, but he's weighing up interest from those 2 clubs. Jake Lloyd, we mentioned on Inside Trading last week, he's got an offer from Sydney on the table for 2026. And a couple of interesting ones to watch, Josh. Charlie Spargo at Melbourne, he's a free agent, missed a lot of this year through injury, but has come back into the team over the last couple of weeks. Missed on the weekend, but was the sub the week earlier. Clubs are watching his situation. And Darcy Gardner, another one to keep an eye out at Brisbane, given he can play both ends of the field, and given key position players are very hard to find in the competition. I think clubs will be watching his situation unfold relatively closely over the next couple of weeks.